Right-wing media darling and persistent fast talker Ben Shapiro has come up with what is maybe his dumbest take ever, and it has everything to do with voter suppression and the bill passed in Georgia, which has been the subject of the very same boycotts that we talked about earlier, which have led to Donald Trump announcing counter boycotts of a bunch of different organizations and companies. Here is Ben Shapiro saying, waiting a long time to vote is no more voter suppression than long lines at Disneyland are rider suppression. I'm not kidding. This is really Ben Shapiro's take. He builds up to the Disneyland thing. We'll look at some other parts of the clip first.
Jim Crow explicitly created a separate system of law for Black Americans and treated them as inferior. There's nothing in the law like that. That's not only an overstatement, it's just an outright lie.
Now, what's interesting about this is that Ben argues because voter suppression laws don't have anything overtly racist written in them, like they don't mention black people or whatever, because it's not overt, it can't be racist. That's very, very wrong. You can, for example, target black neighborhoods. You can target black Christians who like to organize rides to go vote on Sunday during early voting after leaving church. You can target them by saying no Sunday early voting, as an example. Just because it's not explicitly written that this is to target black people doesn't mean that the impact can't be racist. I'm sure Ben knows that. His audience doesn't, and he's playing down to an audience that is ignorant, quite frankly. Let's continue.
But, says Jamel Hill, all of corporate America should resonate to the lie. The law imposes new voter identification requirements for absentee ballots. Well, clearly that's racist. I mean, you mean you have to show that you are who you say you are when you vote absentee? If you can explain to me how that's racist, I'm willing to hear it. Anyone? Bueller? It limits the use of ballot drop boxes. Oh, you mean like ballot drop boxes where people could just stuff the ballot box or take ballots out of the ballot box?
The scholarship on how voter ID is a racial issue is very extensive. It's a very long list. Some things to consider. Minority voters are more likely to lack ID. Okay. We know minorities tend to be less economically well off in the United States than whites. So while the voter ID itself is free, as right-wingers will often tell you, the documents you often need to get your voter ID aren't free. And if you don't have those documents, you not only have to pay for them, you have to take time off from work to get ID. Less economically advantaged individuals are less able to take time off from work to go and get the documents and then get the ID. But we also know that voter ID laws are enforced in a discriminatory manner. There's a very good Caltech MIT study which found that when you look at who is questioned about their ID, minority voters are far more often questioned about ID than white voters. So understand that he's wrong about everything he's saying. Then Ben Shapiro talks about taking ballots out of drop boxes. Listen, that's theoretically possible. No ballot box I've ever seen makes that possible. With the drop box I used when I voted, it's just a simple engineering issue. There's no way to take ballots out. The path into it, it's an engineering issue. And either Ben is ignorant to that or, again, knows his audience will fall for it. Let's continue.
It hands state officials more power over local elections. Even before the legislation passed, many voters of color in Georgia faced hours-long queues at the polls. By the way, voter suppression doesn't involve long lines, any more than long lines at Disneyland are ride suppression. You know what voter suppression is? Voter suppression is where you don't get to vote.
Now, there is the climax of stupidity, the height of ignorance. It's actually hard to know where to start because there's so much wrong with that. Ben's argument is, if there's a long line for a roller coaster, it's no more suppression than if there's a long line to vote. Now, first of all, voting is a right. It's a constitutional right. People who are at Disneyland are in a privileged position of choosing to go to entertainment if they can afford it. Disneyland is pretty expensive. Disneyland also isn't open one day per year with some extra days that are being negotiated and argued about. Okay, so there's no comparison here. There's no equivalence whatsoever. Second, when it comes to waiting periods for owning guns, suddenly it taking a while is suppression of one's Second Amendment right. They say, people like Ben say, if you have a constitutional right to a gun. The day you want it, you should be able to get it. Okay, but so does the same apply to voting? No, same day registration is dangerous. Oh, and would you apply the same thing to waiting in long lines to vote? No, that's totally different. So the hypocrisy. Number 3, aside from the absurdity of comparing roller coasters to voting, Disneyland isn't trying to make lines longer. The strategy by the American right is exactly that. Make the lines longer in left-leaning, in poorer, in non-white areas, so that those voters may say, this is a pain, I'm going home, but keep the lines short in the wealthier, right-leaning, and whiter areas by having more polling places and more polling booths. And case in point, this isn't just a hypothesis. A study in Georgia found that the average wait time when polls closed was 6 minutes in areas that are 90% white and 51 minutes in areas that are 90% non-white. It's already happening. It's not, they might do this. They've been doing it. Somehow, Ben Shapiro was able to put together a segment that completely lacks logic and nuance and accuracy. Like it almost takes effort to put together such a dumb take. And these are the types of arguments that you and I might hear them and say, nobody would fall for that. Trump won in 2016. People fall for really stupid arguments all the time. We'll take a quick break. Make sure to install the Basic Attention, the Brave BAT browser plugin. This is a way that is free to you to support the David Pakman Show. Google Brave browser plugin and install it. A great thing. Great new way to support the David Pakman Show at no cost to you. When you see me sitting here at the microphone, oftentimes I'm wearing a shirt by a company called Teddy Stratford. And I love these shirts so much that I asked Teddy Stratford to be a sponsor of the show. And here's why I like their shirts so much. With other slim fit button-up shirts, you often get this weird looking gap between the buttons where it looks kind of stretched out. But Teddy Stratford actually has a patented zipper that's hidden underneath the buttons, which secures the shirt against your chest so it doesn't look stretched. And most importantly, it just provides a nicer looking fit overall. And the entire shirt is specially designed to really improve the way your upper body looks when you're wearing it. It also has a special type of collar that prevents it from drooping down and spreading open, which is another really great thing about these shirts. All of these things really do a lot to make a big difference when you're looking at a shirt. And that's why I like to wear Teddy Stratford shirts on the show. Go check them out at davidpakman.com/Teddy. The link is down below and they'll give you 15% off your first order if you use the coupon code Pakman at checkout.